This is the Greater Futures Podcast. A very special guest today, the co-founder, co-conspirator of Greater Futures and fellow just passion about things money, finance, economics. The economics degree certified, also greater than financial operations and client service associate and manager. This is Emalee. Emalee, are you so pumped to be getting interviewed right now?
I am so pumped.
So you have had a lot to do with this podcast. Tell me what you think of Greater Futures as an idea to try to help people with their money.
Well, I think it's a fantastic idea, partially because it was partially my idea. But I also think that there's a gap in the market to give young people just a fun way of learning finance and a good way to make it accessible. And that's kind of what we're trying to do here.
So that is partly from your own experience, because in that you might be saying, there was better ways for me to learn about money. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. And as somebody who went on to get a degree in economics and work in the finance world, I still felt bored during personal finance. So I feel like if you can't catch the attention of me, somebody who's interested in that, then my classmates who are not interested, they're not going to pay attention whatsoever.
Yeah. So I want to know some more about the way you have learned and how you think about your resources, money, your time, your energy. Before we do that, you, outside of resources, because resources are they help do the things that are really important to you. Mm-hmm. So if you were completely free, unlimited resources, meaning time, money, energy, what are some ways that you would be spending your time, or what are the things in life that's made you feel the most alive?
So definitely family and friends, kind of the top priority of if you have unlimited time, a lot of it would be spent there. Unlimited money and everything, definitely buy a house in New York, close to the city, and then own another house here, in Andrew County somewhere. And then, yeah, that's kind of where we're at the moment.
What about New York makes you think that would be sweet?
I just think, once you own a house in New York, it's a generational, you never get rid of it. So that's kind of the thing of even if you don't live there, you just kind of have it and can go. But yeah, and also with Wyman doing music theater and that sort of thing, it's kind of a cool place to be, but also a point in time.
So some people might not know, what's a Wyman?
Wyman is my husband. He's actually behind the camera today, but but he does music theater. So that's kind of the goal for that.
So when you talk about your life, it isn't just what you want, because you're a married person now. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So
2 years.
How much do you think your full life perspective has changed from before? You've been married for 2 years now. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
Before 2 years ago to now, has what is considered this is life, has that changed at all for you?
Yeah, definitely. Especially with just not even just getting married, but graduating college has definitely changed.
How long ago did you graduate?
In May. So that was 3 months ago, I think. So yeah, it's been crazy 3 months. But yeah, after graduating college, I feel the perspective for me changed more than it felt like it did when getting married. But that's not a measurable thing. It just feels that way, I think. But also age comes with that as well.
Yeah. So if you had all of the money in the world, you owned a house in New York, a house close to where you grew up, you could buy really whatever you want, types of cars, vehicles, clothing, food, but you lost your husband through whatever. Yeah. Would you take that trade?
No.
Why not?
He's more valuable than that.
Are you sure?
Yes.
What about some of your close friends? Would you trade
No.
that for them?
Definitely not.
Assuming they'll never listen to this podcast, are you sure you would trade them for that?
Well, that changes. No, I'm just kidding. But no. Yeah. It's definitely world's more important than any money can buy, for sure.
There is a line somewhere probably of acquaintances you had, people you had a great time with, maybe for a season of life when you were younger or over summer. There is a line of people you're like, well, if I never saw them again, I would be okay.
Yeah.
So some of that you would probably trade for resources, right? You're like, I'd be okay if not to see them again.
Yeah, I would. But also, like, I think that's a tricky thing because I never want to, like, close a chapter on somebody that, like, I don't know the chapter's ready to be closed on.
The good news is I don't know anyone who's actually offering money to promise to never see a person again.
Yeah.
Except for maybe mercenaries who are hired to murder people.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I definitely wouldn't take the money then.
Yeah, because you could end up in prison.
Exactly.
Good. So you mentioned friends and family. Is there anything particular about time with them or seeing them that is good, or is it just knowing they're there? Like, what's alive about friends and family when you mention that as a piece of who you are?
Definitely good conversation. Like, because other times, like, there isn't conversation there, and then you're just kind of like hanging out, which is also good. But definitely the point that's valuable to me is the conversation and like being together and like actually building the community that's like your backbone, essentially, of like people to lean on, that sort of thing.
Right. So do you see a connection between friends and family and, say, resources or money, time with them, moments with them? Do you connect those two at all, or are those completely separate things to you?
I definitely see it connected, but in the sense of like how much time is spent with them versus like how much time is spent like working or things. It's kind of more like the opportunity cost situation versus like just like thinking in like trades of like money versus like family type situation for me.
So you throw out opportunity costs, which is something that's pretty important in like a resource education. How would you define opportunity cost as a first question? What is it to you? How is it helpful to even know what an opportunity cost is?
Yeah. The way that I would define it is like the cost of choosing one decision over the other. So if I'm choosing to spend more time, obviously making money, then the cost would be family time and vice versa. And it's like one of my favorite economic terms as an economics, bachelor degree holder. But it's just a good term to describe the give and take.
Do you remember when you figured out what opportunity cost was?
Yeah, it was like my freshman year of college. I had to take a macroeconomics course at Northwest. So, yeah. And that's when I kind of was like, oh, I like economics.
Once you learn like the definition of a term like that, was it like, oh, I actually had never thought this way? Or is like, no, I've thought this way. I just now can define what it is to think about what I give up when I make one choice over another.
I think it's kind of the case like where you learn a term, but it like changes your perspective on things. That's kind of like what opportunity cost was for me. Because it's like you're already doing it. Everybody essentially has decisions that have opportunity costs, but you like never have a word for it. And then it I guess conceptualizes something you haven't thought about before.
So here's a challenge for you. Can you apply opportunity cost to something that makes you feel alive? And I'll even make it more specific for you. We talked about your husband, Wyman, who's actually right over there. Can you give an example of opportunity costs when it came to a marriage relationship, or you two dated a long time too?
Yeah.
Can you apply opportunity costs to a personal relationship like that at all?
Yeah. So, and actually, like, one that I've never like talked about in the concept of opportunity cost, but the long distance we did for his freshman and sophomore year of college.
Where was he?
At Wichita State University.
And you were?
At Northwest Missouri State University in, Maryville.
Separated by how much time traveling?
3.5 hours. So, and like, obviously there was distance there. And that was like kind of a cost of like, do I go to Wichita State or do I go to Northwest? And it was like give and take, but I also like had plenty of time to work on school, and so did he. And then like a year later, we got engaged and got married anyway. So
it's a ton of fun to do a long distance relationship. Is that?
I would not say that, but I do like my personal time. So that was good for that
some
reason.
perks to it.
But it also helped us like grow as people without like being together all the time. And I like never would have like made other friends outside of like our relationship at Northwest and things if like I just would have followed him for any reason. So
yeah, and you two have faced a little long distance relationship even this summer after graduating.
Yes.
Has that been worth it?
Yeah, it's
Has
definitely
Has it been easy?
It's not been easy, but I think it's been worth it. Yeah, I mean, it's a means to an end, but.
And the reason you've had to spend some time Kansas City to Wichita is because there was opportunity for Wyman to do some work still in Wichita before moving your lives pretty much permanently or for the next season to Kansas City. And then you had some opportunity to do work and establish your home in Kansas City.
Yep.
Yeah, great. Good. So I'm also a huge fan. As a similar course at Northwest that changed my whole perspective of really all of life, and it was an economics course, but opportunity cost was a big one. So you use that more for your time away. There are opportunity costs of how you spent your time when you and Wyman were in college. When you think of opportunity costs, is time the first thing that comes to your mind, or is it money, dollars and cents, or maybe some other resource you have?
Yeah, so I think of it definitely as time, but as like an economics student, like it's taught to be like money or cost in general. But I always think about it as time because right now, like we've talked about before, time is our greatest resource. And so time's kind of like the most important one to me at the moment.
So when you have time, that's just Emalee time. It's meant to unwind. I don't have to grind at work or relationships or anything else. How would Emalee spend that time?
Definitely like just reading books, like watching TV. Yeah, that sort of thing. Just kind of like doing things like my mind does not have to work.
So you choose, like you get a moment like, all right, I'm going to sit down. Do you read sitting down or laying down? Like, does that matter to you?
Sitting down usually because like laying down hurts my neck.
Yeah. Can you read while you're walking? Have you ever tried it?
I can. Should I is a different story.
I'm sad sometimes. Like I would read more probably if I could walk while I was reading, but it is dangerous, unfortunately. Yeah. So you choose to read instead of flip on a movie usually when you have some time?
It is. My choices are changing because I spend 8 hours a day on a computer. And so like trying to like mitigate that screen time and like not always also do like 2 or 3 hours watching on TV or something. So I try to read more. But like realistically, it's definitely the TV first.
So you said they're changing. Have they changed quite a bit, say in the last 2 years ago, Emalee, like when you weren't married, to 4 years ago, Emalee, that wasn't even in college yet, to even like 10 years ago, Emalee, that wasn't thinking too much about her adult self?
Yeah, I would definitely say it changed. I would say like, even though it doesn't feel like I have more free time, I have more free time in the sense, like, I'm not doing sports and things from high school. So, but like, I just have had to like figure out what my free time is used for.
Yeah.
Type thing. Cause like high school kind of just like, your free time is not really yours. And like, you're just told to do like whatever you're supposed to do. But
So you are 21.
yes.
Going on
22.
Oh, what a special year.
I know.
So flashing back to say your 15-year-old self, did you imagine you would be where you're at with what you have right now?
No, definitely not.
What was a picture of how you thought or what's been different than you expected?
Yeah. I try to think about this a lot. Like, or I do think about this a lot.
You try and fail because it's hard.
I do think about it a lot, but I also like try not to focus on it because it's like, oh, what could have been type situation. But yeah, my life is definitely drastically different, but not like in a bad way for sure. But obviously, like I didn't know I was gonna be like in the financial planning world. Yeah, so I didn't know I was gonna do that. I did not know I would live in Wichita for 2 years. I honestly, if you could say like, oh, what was the one thing you did expect to happen? I did expect to get married at 19. Not necessarily like, I mean, obviously if I didn't like have somebody to marry, I wouldn't have, but that was probably like the one thing I was like, oh yeah, that's going to happen. So
you probably didn't expect your husband to start paying serious attention to you when you're an 8th grader. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Second half. So it was like December on.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Good. So change generally right now, would you see change as something to look forward to or something to dread?
I definitely think, I don't know, at this point, I'm like, I don't really know like what could change and like throw me for a loop. Change is definitely, I think it's hard for everybody, whether or not you say like, oh, I love change. I don't believe you. But yeah, no, I'm excited for change because like graduating college is nice and like starting a full-time job is like a consistency I never had before. But yeah, I mean, I want to say that I embrace change, but I'm not really sure that's like true.
So I get it. And why do you think most people do just despise or even get just afraid of change?
Yeah, I just think it's like human nature. I also think it's like people enjoy rhythm and like changing the rhythm disrupts everything. Whether it's like a big change or a small change, it still changes something.
Right.
So that's kind of like what I think, but
yeah. Yeah. And I think people, just the same reason someone's afraid of the dark, like I can't see what's coming. Most times when like the lights go out, we know there's not something in the room that's going to harm us. We just can never say for sure because once things go dark,
yeah,
you don't know what has changed out there. And the same, I think about a future that's unknown. You're like, I just don't know.
Yeah.
And that takes some assuming things will be good, like the definition of optimism versus pessimism. Like I assume things are going to go really poorly. But things haven't gone according to maybe you have planned. But you would say right now you're pretty content with the way life's going.
Yeah, definitely content, but also like still in that period of like traveling back and forth to Kansas City and Wichita. So you're like, oh, hopefully after that time will slow down essentially, but like that's not the case. Like it's just not true.
How sad would you be if I told you we're going to lock in your life right now. Like you're going to live in that same place with the same family dynamics, with the same job, the same friendships for the rest of your life. Is that something you would rejoice because, hey, there's no uncertainty in that?
Yeah, definitely not. Like, I mean, obviously, like, you kind of, like, want your family to, like, stay the same and, like, your friends to stay the same. Obviously, like, I want to have kids and, like, things like that. And so if you were like, yeah, you're going to have just you and Wyman forever, like, obviously that's going to be fun, but, like, not
for a little while.
Well, not the fun that, like, you imagine in your head. And so, yeah, definitely.
Still just you, Wyman. Still just you.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, obviously like change is necessary. But
Yeah, good. I think it's a big deal for all of humans, but then young people who kind of are on the verge of just so much is going to be different. And I think good, but no less scary for so many people.
Yeah.
And now that you have kind of got settled into a mode through the transitions of from high school to college to our first place outside of with incomes and jobs, like that's kind of exciting that you've gotten to that point, and how you actually wanted that change because it's led to new exciting things. But also, if I think you would be sad if like 10 years not much has changed from today. From what I know of you, I think you'd be pretty disappointed for the opportunities you didn't get. So, okay, new segment here. We call this "If I Had $1 Million," and I would sing it maybe later. Emalee, you get $1 million. What does it change, if anything? What would you do with that money?
so what does it change and what would I do? Okay, so first of all, if it changed anything, I would say at this point, no. Like it wouldn't change where I live and like that sort of thing. At least within the short term. But what I would do with it,
Do you call short term a year, 2 years, 5 years? What's short term to you?
short term in this point in my life is like 6 months.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So today I wouldn't change where I live. But yeah, so like within the next 6 months, like it wouldn't change a lot. As far as like where I live and like relationships and things go. But if I had that, would definitely be a serious discussion of like buying a house would probably be one of the biggest ones, and whether or not like the house is in Kansas City, which is definitely more likely, and then like, but also thinking about like whether or not New York or like Chicago or a different place is kind of an option would also be, I mean, it would definitely be a thought process. And then maybe like a new car, but not for me. I like my car. Maybe Wyman can get a new car.
Do you ever want to give up your car?
I don't see a world in which like it makes sense.
What if like the floorboards are gone? Like,
Okay, yeah.
you're my baby. I'm not going to let you go.
Yeah, definitely like if it comes to the case of like, oh, it costs more to fix than like the car is worth, then like we can get rid of it. But
Have you named your car?
no,
Okay.
I have not.
Does the car have a personality?
Not really.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
Humans' ability to
Yeah.
attach to things is interesting sometimes.
Yeah. But I also
Are you attached to your car?
Yeah, I'm attached to it, but it's also like incredibly practical.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So you'd be buying some real estate or being like thinking about
Yeah.
real estate. If you had $1 million, you would probably do something different car-wise for your family.
Yeah. But I would also like, I would buy a house in cash. So like, that's already
Like a briefcase full?
that would be pretty cool. I should roll up with like my sunglasses on too in a suit. But yeah, I'd definitely buy in cash. And then, yeah, after that, it's like depending on how much money is left, I guess. Yeah, new car. And then I would max out our Roth IRAs and make sure our emergency fund is filled out. And then the rest of the money, I probably just go in like our other investment account, like just our individual joint one we have together.
Nice.
Yeah, nothing crazy.
I mean, that's crazy. It could be crazy depending on your definitions. Does it feel like $1 million change? Like, are you more confident, or is it like, no, it's just?
Yeah, I mean, like more confident in like the ability to like pay bills, I guess. But like, I also don't feel like I'm lacking anything either. So it's like it's already an unfathomable amount of money.
Would that amount of money change your or your husband's career choices or decisions at all?
I can't speak for him.
Yeah.
I would say it would ease his mind. As far as like money goes. But for me, like, I wouldn't change anything about my career, which
You're
hope,
just saying that because I'm your boss.
yeah, I hope is good to hear. But yeah, I wouldn't change anything about my career.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, $1 million is a lot of money, but it also, like, wouldn't last me for the rest of my life.
Right.
Probably.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's crazy as an old man how much different it's changed, you know, because we are like 18 years apart. And so how much difference in 18 years, $1 million means or doesn't mean, you know, 18 years later, especially since prices have risen a lot more in our last few years. So,
Yeah.
cool. So, changing gears once more, I would love to talk more about you. We've talked about you, but more specifically, how you came to view your resources the way you did. So, I would love to know how you believe you've come to like frame any choice you've had about either your time, your money. One of your biggest first decisions was when you probably got to be a teenager and you had some time where you didn't have to be watched by your parents, right? Probably for all of us. Maybe got a first job outside the home or at the home. So how did you start when you got independence as a teen? How did you start using those choices either with your time or your money? Who taught you how to do that? Or do you just like, no, I just did it myself? What do you remember about starting to make your own choices about your resources?
Yeah. I feel like I don't remember a lot, but like that's probably just like my brain being like, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, cause like, so I got a boyfriend at 14. So like, I feel like that's like the first decision where you're like, oh, I gotta have money to like pay for like presents or like whatever. So obviously I thought about that until like any decisions I made with that, like my parents were there to help me, kind of like tell me like, hey, this is like not, or too expensive, or like, you shouldn't waste money on this type thing. But then, yeah, like after getting my car, I knew I had to pay for gas. And then, just like I helped mow the yard, like at my parents'. So my parents would pay my car insurance. So that was like obviously like kind of equating money, but like the money never reached my hands. So it like isn't quite the same to like grasp. But then I got a job at Target when I was 17 maybe. So that was like my first real like legitimate like money I had. And then I also worked at the Space Between, and so I got money there. So that was like the first like money I had. And at that point, I feel like I can't remember ever doing anything crazy with it. I think I just like put in my savings account or something. It was like, oh, well, I'll have college in a couple of years to like save money for that. But yeah, like as far as money went, like I kind of look back and I'm like, oh, maybe I should have like had a little bit more fun. But also like not like the saving that I did before then like helped pay for like obviously like my life now.
Yeah.
So it's like not a regret. It's just like, oh, I could have had more fun, I think.
Is there anything a 21 or 22-year-old Emalee would go back to the 14, 15 version of yourself and be like, pay attention to this?
I think, yeah, but like not in money terms. It'd be more like just
time terms?
Pay attention to time, but also just pay attention to the people you give your time to. Of like, and like I always had good friends and like good relationships outside of that too. But I also think that there were like definitely situations or just like high school girl drama and like things that like, it's like, oh, that actually like doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. And so like thinking about that and being like, oh, well, that's like not really worth my time.
Yeah.
But you also kind of have to live through those things before you can like say that too.
And I asked you this a little earlier, but I want to put it to you again because I think it's pretty important. Do you see your time and the way you chose to spend your time? Maybe you would have said a little bit different, pay closer attention to this. Do you see that connected to like financial planning or personal finance at all, or is that too far of a stretch for you or most young people?
Well, I definitely see it connected, but it's also come from a lot of conversations like you and I have already had of like time is our greatest resource, especially when you're young, because like you have a lot of time to make money. So, but like, I wouldn't say that's something that's like easy to grasp. Even if like you already think about it, it's kind of like putting a name to something too, like opportunity cost, even though like you've already done it. So yeah, I just feel like time being the greatest resource, like, was me believing that definitely came from conversations like you and I have had versus like, because I just feel like it's kind of like ingrained to like believe that money's like the most important part.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I know I've told anybody younger than me, and I've said it more often. It's like, hey, your time's more valuable than mine, just because any choice you make that's productive or teaches you something or has an impact, that how much that ball will roll, you know, the size of the hill that it'll roll down and start gaining momentum is bigger if we both live to average life expectancies for, you know, males or females today. And so I truly see your or my own children's time as more valuable than mine, even though I know I have more valuable time than plenty of people older than me too. So
Yeah.
nice. So you have a pretty good financial resource perspective right now. I know because I know you pretty well personally. What are the sources that influence that? Were your parents a piece of that, or other family? Did you take a personal finance class? What have you learned since then? You mentioned the economics course at Northwest, and then you got continued education at Wichita State. How did those sources play a role, if any? Maybe they were like, that was useless. It really didn't make a difference or move the needle for your understanding of how to make your decisions.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start from like the beginning. Yeah, definitely my parents like obviously influenced me in like obviously ways more than financial, but like just like hearing them talk about money and like obviously like, and more not necessarily like the value of money, but like the value of like hard work and how to earn like your place and also to earn like money. And so like that was kind of the biggest lesson I feel like of like, hey, you need to like work hard and you need to earn your place. So definitely that. And then I did take a personal finance course. I think my first semester of senior year. I think it might have been a requirement for North Andrew. And so I feel like that's kind of like where everything kind of like, when you look back and like, oh, where did my like want to like be in the financial world came from? Definitely that was probably the starting point of like how I guess upset I got at like the lack of like, and it wasn't even necessarily like on like the teacher or anything. It was just like, I don't know. I think the course we went through like didn't connect super well with kids, and like
You were like 16, 17 at that point.
I would have been 18,
Yeah.
but yeah, so like I don't know. It just like didn't feel like it was easy to apply it to like real life, because not everybody's like, one, it is hard because not everybody's situation is like the same. So like some of my classmates were like paying for cars. Some of them were like thinking about college, but others like weren't thinking about any of those things. So it's hard to like have a broad view. But yeah, I just feel like the education I got there was like not what I wanted, essentially. So yeah, that was kind of, I mean, yeah. And then after high school, I started working for you in June. So I graduated in May, and then I think I started working for you. So obviously like that was a huge part of it. And kind of like a big reason I ended up going to like business school. I was already thinking about business school before I started working for you, but then like it was definitely solidified after that. And so obviously like doing that. And then, I mean, the economics course at Northwest was good, but like it's not the same as like personal finance. So like I wouldn't say that was super helpful as far as like personal finance goes. But yeah, and then like, I mean, kind of after that, everything like just the ball started rolling and then it never stopped. So like,
Got a rabbit on set.
I know.
He's good as long as he doesn't chew cords, right?
Yeah. Hopefully we'll hear him.
If you want to pick him up, you can. We can't see him.
Yeah.
I would
can't
be
see him
covered in
either
hair.
right now.
He's going to eat my chair. It's
I will
okay.
pick him up if I get a chance to grab him.
But
Also, pets are a good financial planning decision. We can talk about that some other time.
yeah, well,
You have any pets?
I do. I
Yeah.
have a dog.
Probably not time to talk about the dog. I know that's been a big part of your life. So
Yeah.
anyway, you were saying about economics,
Yeah.
part of it, but not necessarily detailed
Yeah.
on personal finance.
Yeah, yeah, and then I got married. And so like right before then, I remember you and I having a conversation of like budgeting and things. So you were laying on the microphone.
There we go.
But
Continue.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I obviously like was thinking about paying for like just certain things for the wedding. Like we obviously had a lot of help with that, but like thinking about that and then like, oh, we're going to have to pay rent after that. And so it was like our first like big like I guess like first big bill type thing. And so yeah, I mean, obviously like the practicality of like having money and then also like needing to pay for things, like I think was just more helpful than like people give it credit for sometimes. Of like, it's just hard for me to conceptualize things when like I don't have it happening to me at the
Right.
moment.
Yeah.
So
And that's probably more human nature than Emily nature.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what's the challenge about what we have in trying to create as much as possible that is meaningful, that doesn't make you angry like you were in high school at your personal finance course, is, hey, sometimes someone's just not ready for it, or they're not in the place where it's gonna, shedding season. They're not in the place where it's gonna hit at the deepest parts. It's not time yet. So do you think it's useful to go through personal finance education if it's just not time for somebody?
I have thought about that a little bit, because like I do think that like I don't think we should send kids out into the world with being like, well, it's not time for you yet, so just like don't worry about it. But I do think there's ways to, like, practical sake of like, oh well, like if you want to get your first job, and not like think necessarily so much of like saving for college or saving for like things, but like kids buy their own cars sometimes, like you can put it in the concept of that. Or even like, oh, you got a boyfriend or a girlfriend and like you want money for those types of things. So it's kind of like doing that practicality sake versus like, hey, just listen to this about like a Roth IRA.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd have thought you could turn Greater Futures into just a teenage dating podcast because I know so many are motivated by like, oh, you know, a girl or guy I like, you know, is like, yeah, if you're motivated by that, and to say it really does have a lot of financial implications. They're not even money, but like just your time, your attention. Those are limited resources that you can use and put in the right place to get you what you want, like just bring you to life. And just you were doing that, it seems, but maybe just like, well, I didn't know getting married would just change my perspective on how I managed my time, energy, and money. But it did, is what you're saying. So
Yeah.
great. Any other influences or things that you experience? You talked about the personal finance course that is helpful then as you think about how do I help others get a good base for how they make their choices?
Yeah. Yeah, any other influences? I mean, obviously you, like, we've worked pretty closely for the past 2 years, and like we know each other outside of the work we do. So that's been nice. Like, definitely, I mean, if I ever have a financial question, like, you're going to be the first person to ask.
Emily, anything else in all of our conversations you think the world should know about you and how you view choices?
Not off the top of my head.
Well, Good job. Great job. We have one more segment.
Okay.
It is spin the wheel. So we don't want you to leave empty handed. And he doesn't need that plant. So we have a wheel. If our lovely assistant would bring the wheel out. This is something that could be edited later. Or not. Not at
Yeah.
all. Just go with it.
Yeah, do whatever you want.
All content is good content.
That's right.
I think-
And our studio audience has grown.
I know. Wow. Oh, I didn't even know Brewer was here.
Okay. So
You have so much rabbit hair all over you.
I got super furry there. Okay. I'm going to record our screen. And then I'm going to give this to you to spin the wheel. I got to sign in.
Is your computer touchscreen?
Nope.
Dang it.
I know it would be a lot cooler. I do have one that would
We can do it on my computer.
work. Okay, signed in.
take questions from the audience?
Oh, that's fun. Live studio audience.
You didn't want to tell anyone that, like, I'm a go-getter?
Like that you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we have a series of gift cards on here that Emalee said, I would love gift cards, any of those places, Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, Wingstop. I've never been to Wingstop. So if you want to take your mouse, spin that wheel, and we will see what
Can I
you
just
win.
Click the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. The one that says spin. There it goes. And Emalee wins. Oh, it went from
Starbucks for $5.
it was on $20 so long,
Yeah,
and then
it
went to
was
Starbucks
Chick-fil-A
for $5. Wyman's disappointed. Great. Well, thank you. I'm sure you'll be probably a frequent guest if we just keep recording, because it helps us to like work out
Yeah.
what we're even doing with all of this. So great work.
Thank you for having me on the podcast.
You're
and
welcome.
For giving me a job.
Cheers.